We are going to take any questions that anyone has. Yes, Mr. Jones.
Rich, first to you. I know that you go back to Israel often. It's not a question, but it's a statement. Would you take back to them that a room full of about 60 people heard the plight, heard the call, and our hearts break for them? So please take that message back.
I do. So I'll just tell you a really quick story. I went over the week after October 7th, and one of the things I did was host a barbecue with some others for a bunch of soldiers who had just come out of Gaza. And I'd like to think it was my cooking skills that they appreciated. I flip a mean burger, but they were just so amazed. They were like, what the hell are you doing here? We're at war. And just to know, because they felt totally abandoned, just to know that there's Americans who care for them, who pray for them, that meant so much to them. That they were so appreciative.
Thank you, and take that back to them, and a picture of tonight would be amazing. My question for you, if you had to guess, if you had to use your best intuitive skills, what will happen first? A Chinese takeover of Taiwan or a Chinese takeover of Manchuria from the Russians?
When you say Manchuria,
The Eastern Siberia Russian territory.
it's definitely Taiwan.
Okay.
Because there's a whole history, behind it. It's the result of Civil War. Taiwan has another, the government in Taiwan used to govern the entire China. So the existing of that government, especially Taiwan today now, is a thriving democracy, and that's every day Taiwan's existence is challenging the legitimacy of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So it's always the CCP's determination that they were going to take Taiwan to eliminate that threat. And actually, it was the Korean War totally changed, because before the Korean War erupted, Chairman Mao was training the PLA soldiers to continue conquering Taiwan, but the Korean War changed the calculus. Anyway, so the current leader Xi Jinping, that's why he built the world's largest navy. That's one of the reasons he built the world's largest navy, is because you need to cross the Taiwan Strait to go there. But I think what's going to end up is actually he can easily take Taiwan without firing a shot. I think that's what his plan to go is through blockade. That's why China has been building all those artificial islands in the South China Sea during the Obama administration. Obama administration did not stop them doing anything. That's how, once they realized that China not only built hundreds of islands, but actually militarize them, basically build a chain, can easily blockade Taiwan while isolated from foreign aid to the island. So I think that's the lowest cost approach for China, is basically, have a blockade around Taiwan, prevent aid from coming in. Because Taiwan is an island, it imports most of the food and energy from external, sources from trade. So that's a low cost way for them to go. But definitely, the Xi will choose Taiwan over, northern Siberia like any day. Because also, right now, during the Russian and Ukraine war, that China basically is supporting Russia economically, so he can get China can get cheap gas and the food from Russia anytime. So there is no need, he needs a partner rather than the territory.
Thank you. Yes, we'll go over here next to Jill and then Ethan.
So I have, Helen, I have two questions for you. Number one, you talked just briefly about the weak Chinese economy and during COVID and stuff. Can you give some greater detail of why that the Chinese economy is so weak? And number two, can you envision a way, obviously Xi does not want to lose face on the world stage. Is there a way that they can negotiate something where we get what we want, but Trump does not completely humiliate Xi because he doesn't want to, look terrible on the world stage? So those are my two questions.
Okay. What's the first question?
The first question was explaining in greater depth of the weakness
the
of
weakness
the
of the
Chinese economy.
Yes. So again, the weakness of the Chinese economy is a self-inflicted wound, because from the 1980s to 2012, basically before she came to power, from 1980 to 2012, China experienced, Chinese government started the economic reform, and the Communist Party took a relatively back step, basically giving people limited freedom to start a business and to claim ownership of some things like not a land property, but still like a business and be creative, be entrepreneurial, and so that's really stimulated China's economy. But when she came into power, he took everything backwards. I actually did a PragerU video. If any of you are Prager's, you can search my name. It just a video came out last year. It said how China went back to Mao. It's all because of she's a fervent believer of Marxism and Maoist ideology. So once he came into power, he actually reimposed the party's charge to the very front row seat. So now every company has a Communist Party cell, even joint venture foreign companies, joint venture in China, you have to have a Communist Party cell. The parties make decisions, normally like in the United States, like shareholders, right? You have boards making decisions how to run the business. But in China, it's the Communist Party cell have the final say. So, but guess what? We have at least 30 years records from 1949 to 1979. The communists does not know how to run the economy, and they still do not know how to run the economy. So that's greatly contributed, because you see entrepreneurs who got arrested or disappeared. Like a great example is Jack Ma. He's the founder of Alibaba, which is like China's Amazon, and he's actually a Communist Party member. And he made a very mild criticism of the financial regulation, not even China's party, just the financial regulation, process in China. He's the richest man in China. He was disappeared. Basically he was told to shut up and disappear from the public for several months, and he ended up exiled to Japan. He still lives in Japan. And so that's how you hurt entrepreneurial spirit, by punishing the success, right? And then COVID, the lockdown severely hurt. There's so many businesses did not survive. I mean, we all understand this, for what we experienced. So many businesses did not survive COVID lockdown. Actually, there was a New York Times article I quoted in my PragerU video that there's so many entrepreneurs in China who, like me, they experienced extreme poverty when growing up, because we were about the same age. And then during the reform era, between 1980 to early 2000, they started business, they took risk, they got rich. But guess what? When she came into power, he imposed everything, ideological control. And after COVID, they all lost their business, they lost the money, and they went back to poverty again. So this is like a whole cycle, within 30 years. It's all happened within your lifetime. So that's why their economy is so weak. I'm sorry, what's the second question?
Is there a way, do you think, for a negotiation to happen?
Yes, definitely, because we can always look back to how the last trade war ended. Last trade war ended, actually I wrote an article about it. Unfortunately, that deal did not get much be publicized very much, because it didn't end up being implemented. But in that negotiation, actually Trump did get a lot of things out of it. For example, when China entered WTO, the World Trade Organization, China promised to open up most of its market, including financial market. The Chinese government never fulfilled that. But in the trade one, under Trump 1, the trade negotiation basically made China promise that they're going to open the financial market. And that's a huge win, but it did not get implemented. Also, it did not get publicized in China, because China claimed it's a win. They never even tell their people what they signed. So I think that's how they preserve China's face, is they may compromise, but they will never admit it in public.
Great. Yes, Ethan. Oh, sorry. I'm not going to look at it. Okay, then I'll look right here. Let's just go to Ethan, and then I'm going to go a little bit here. Go ahead. Yes.
My question is for Rich. First of all, happy Face Off. And I wanted to ask you, you said that Iran was the weakest it's ever been. So why don't we strike? Why doesn't Israel take them out once and for all?
Can you be president?
For a day.
So that's the argument. So I think the thinking is Trump is trying to pull off his magic in a negotiation. We'll give it a few weeks and see how it goes. The hope in Israel, everyone believes it's not going to be successful, and that there will then be a strike, and hopefully by the U.S. and not just Israel. But let me just say, even if we bomb the hell out of the centrifuges, they still have the know-how how to do this. So the most we can do is set them back a few years. And again, they're hell-bent. Let me just remind you, the name of Iran isn't just Iran, it is the Islamic Republic of Iran. And in their charter is to spread Islam throughout the world. So what we really need in Iran is regime change.
Yeah.
And most of the Iranian people hate the mullahs who run the country. So the Iranian people are actually on our side for the most part. We need to find a way to empower them, give them what they need so they can get rid of the Ayatollah and the mullahs, and we can end the problem once and for all.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, right here, Mike.
Rich, I saw Palestinians demonstrating, which is highly unusual. What do you know of that? Is that just a one-off, or do you think that that's the Palestinian people speaking against Hamas?
Oh, you're talking about in Gaza itself?
Yes.
Okay. So in the past 2 or 3 weeks, there have been some demonstrations by Palestinians in Gaza against Hamas. What you have to keep in mind is that these are very, very small, that they're generally dozens or a couple hundred out of a population of 2 million. And Hamas has brutally suppressed them. So the leader of one of the protests last week was murdered by Hamas. The good news is his family is powerful, and they found the Hamas guy that murdered their son, and they murdered the Hamas guy. So I was happy to see that. So it is unprecedented that there are some protests, but they're very, very small, and I don't think they're going to amount to much at the end of the day.
Great, let's go to, okay, let's go here, right there. Yes, go ahead.
Rich, I got two questions for you. You mentioned that the Israel is being attacked on 7 fronts. You only named 4. What are the other 3? That's question number 1. And the second question is, could you comment on the source of the disrupt or opposition to Netanyahu within Israel? That's always been something I could never get my hands around. Understand that.
Gotcha, okay. All right, let's see if I can do the 7. Obviously, Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Yemen,
Yep.
the Shiite militias in Iraq.
Okay.
We have the West Bank, Judea, and the northern West Bank and the southern West Bank. And Iran, of course.
Syria.
And Syria, yeah. So we include the West Bank as one, and Syria.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So, and to talk about Netanyahu without getting too in the weeds, so Bibi Netanyahu, who speaks great English, by the way, little known fact, his father used to teach at DU before he was born. So Denver has this weird connection with Israeli prime ministers that first Bibi's father and family lived here in Denver for several years, and also Golda Meir, who you may remember. She grew up in Milwaukee, and when she was 16, she ran away from home to live with her sister in Denver. So Denver attracts Israeli prime ministers for some reason. Netanyahu is very controversial. Without getting into the weeds, I am obviously on the right, and I despise Netanyahu because I believe Netanyahu puts his personal interests ahead of the country. I would much prefer to see another member of the right as prime minister than Netanyahu. So there's big protests in Israel. What's really killing me and lots of other people is that there are massive protests in Israel for and against Netanyahu and the other civil issues. So there's not great unity in Israel. And Netanyahu is doing everything he can not to have an election because it's likely he will lose if there was an election today in Israel. He's on trial for corruption. Looking like he's not going to be convicted. but he's a very divisive figure, and in my opinion, it's time for him to go.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, yes, Renee. And then we'll go over to Corey.
Thank you. So that kind of leads us to trying to understand that a high majority of Jewish people in America are Democrat. How does that fit with all that's going on? Like it doesn't work. How does that?
The age-old question.
Yeah.
Why are Jews Democrats? First of all, it goes back to my grandparents' generation. I'm a very typical American Jew. My grandparents were all immigrants fleeing anti-Semitism in Europe and Russia. So I'm a third-generation American. But my grandparents would turn over in their graves before they voted for a Republican, because when they were coming to this country, there was the Ku in the 1950s, there was the Klan and other groups, and most of the anti-Semitism came from the right. So they became lifelong Democrats. Today, obviously, it's the opposite. Most of the anti-Semitism is coming from the left, but Jews haven't adopted. But the bottom line is, like any religion or any nationality, the more religious you are, the more conservative you are. Most Jews are not very religious. And I put it very bluntly, most American Jews care more about abortion than they do Israel. So they vote Democrat. And their take on it whenever I say, how can you do this? Look at what Trump did, look at what, it's, well, the Democrats are good enough on Israel and I care more about abortion.
Wow.
Thank you.
So, all right. I've got to call my husband or he'll be angry at me.
No, that's
and then I'll go to Corey.
So Helen and Rich, thank you both for being here. And just a crazy idea, Rich. Maybe Israel just gifts the upper administration of Iran some pagers. But we, like Deborah said, we've seen the unedited Hamas footage. I can't imagine how many times you've sat through it in various groups. We know the power that film has on the culture, both positive and negative. And culture is a product of what it consumes. Has anybody approached either the Israeli government or some of the deep-pocketed Israelis about doing a movie? I mean, basically a Schindler's List of what happened on October 7th so the world can see that footage?
Thanks, Jonathan. So are you up for the job? Is that
Yes,
what you're saying?
100%.
So the short answer is yes. Actually, the woman who was number 2 at Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, made a movie that was detailing all the rapes. Because, in America, all women are told that when someone says they were raped, you must believe them, except that the woman was Jewish. So she made a movie, like, in great detail, showing all the rapes, taking the footage, and basically only Jewish people went to see it. So the bigger issue is, how do we get the average? The problem, as I see it, is too many Americans think that Iran is an Israel problem and it's not an American problem. So whenever I talk about Israel, I always try and emphasize, guys, this is our problem. Because just as Iran wants to wipe out Israel, Iran wants to wipe out the United States. And they could buy a missile from North Korea today and send it. And once they have the ability to build a nuclear bomb and they're this close, they're literally days away, that they could send it to America. But what really scares me is a missile. To have a nuclear bomb, as we think about it, you need the uranium, you need a warhead, and you need a missile. They have the uranium now. They could buy the missile. They have missiles that could reach Europe. They could buy a missile that could reach America from the North Koreans tomorrow. They don't have the warhead technology yet. We think they're still a year away. But what scares the hell out of me is they could have what we call a dirty bomb. They could simply put the uranium on a ship. They could sail it into New York Harbor, and they could detonate. And now people say, well, that's not so bad because it's only the power of the bombs that we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, only. Okay, but that's why we need to keep the focus, obviously, on China and Iran. Because Iran wants, to kill us just as much as they want to kill Jews.
Yeah. And every one of us can do our part in the job of public opinion when we talk to others and keep this at the forefront. Because if we don't do this now, when we have the presidency in both chambers of our Congress, I don't know when we will. This is not the time to put the foot off the pedal on either one of these fights. Okay, we got a couple, yes, right over here, Corey.
Hi, my name's Corey Nelson, and I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army. I was stationed in 1981 in a place called West Berlin, Germany. I used to go through Checkpoint Charlie into East Berlin, and so I saw what a communist-controlled government was. I could go on and on about that. I have two suggestions of practical things everybody in this room can do. First of all, buy Helen's book, okay?
Here, here.
Send it to any high school student, niece, nephew, grandchild. I got my high school daughter to read this, and it changed everything. She immediately understood why communism and socialism was bad, more than listening to her father. So this can change your children's, grandchildren's, nieces, nephews' ideology and concepts, and get them to understand how bad communism is. I want you to sign my book. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't tell you how important this is. Second thing I have is, as a soldier, I'm very concerned about all the Israeli Defense Force soldiers who are out there. We don't hear enough about them. They actually have home soldiers, Americans who travel to and volunteer. I support and make financial donations to a group called FIDF, Friends of the Israeli Defense Force. You can go FIDF.com, you can make a financial donation. That gives them support, meaningful things, whether it be even just toiletries, meaningful things that they know come from Americans, and they can actually see that support. So much being a soldier in the field is rough and tough. So send them your love financially and give them some love for those. So those two things you can do.
Thank you. And Corey, share the link to that group, the FIDF, on the Facebook group for those who want to contribute. Thank you so much. And do buy Helen's book. Yes.
Let me just mention, so my wife is on the board of the Denver chapter of FIDF.
Please tell them you got supporters out here,
Great.
right? American veterans, support them.
Wonderful, thank you. I think we had a hand up over here. I think we'll just take like maybe two more questions, and then John. Yes, go ahead.
Your statement about Netanyahu surprised me a little bit. Can you give us a name of someone that you like and why?
Anyone not named Netanyahu on the right. So let me first say, I don't think Israel should have elections in the middle of a war. You know, it's not the right time. But once this is over, it looks like there's a former prime minister named Naftali Bennett. He's a tech entrepreneur. He was the prime minister for a short period in between Netanyahu's prime ministers. Very smart guy, speaks perfect English. He's basically Netanyahu without the baggage. So he would be the guy I would support.
John, thank you for your patience.
Military realist. I have heard probably for at least 3, if not 5 years, that Iran is a year away from a bomb. There are those in the intelligence community who say they already have one, perhaps 3. All in all, it's speculation on everybody's part. We don't really know. But the point is, if I'm Iran, the game I'm playing is to delay and defer, because I know I may be able to eliminate Israel with 1 or 3 weapons. But that's not enough. So all I have to do is just keep drawing this out, which they've done for years. So at what point is enough, knowing full well the longer we wait, the worse it's going to be?
Okay. So just to be clear, in terms of the nuclear material, we think in a day they could have enough nuclear material for 6 bombs. So let's just get the bejesus out of everybody. And everyone always points to Libya, because remember, Libya and Gaddafi gave up all his nuclear weapons, and then he was overthrown with US support. So it seems pretty clear that the mullahs believe that once they have a nuclear bomb, they're impenetrable. That no one will dare take them on because they have a nuclear bomb and they could use it, and they're crazy enough to do it. So my take on it is, if we don't have regime change, we are going to war with Iran. It's just a question of when. And the bigger question is, when we fight Iran, when we go to war with them, Should we do it before they have a nuclear weapon or after they have a nuclear weapon? I vote that we do it before they have a nuclear weapon.
All right, last comment.
You know, just quickly, Trump commented on this. He's very much aware they're trying to spread it out or delay, and he's not going to let that happen. So, you know, he said he worked with lots of developers who tried the same thing and he wouldn't let it happen.
So I don't know if you heard what Jeanette said is that President Trump just recently talked about this and said he would not let Iran get to that point. And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to do this today is because we've got so much that we focus on right here, and we've got to be vigilant. But as it says in our nation's capital on one of the engravings, is the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. I would also say, do not grow weary while doing good. If you know that scripture, there's a lot that we talk about here, but we all can do something about it. And part of it is keeping these two things on the forefront. Making sure that when people are like, tariffs, well, t-shirts, right? I want my cheap t-shirts. We have to be the ones to say, no, don't you understand? This is the way we rebuild our infrastructure. So stay the course. Same thing with supporting Israel. First of all, there is right and there is wrong, period. And America's been on the side of the right, and this is our job to make sure our neighbors understand this isn't just about getting tired of something or not wanting to stand up against protests. This is about civilization versus barbarism. And so we need to stand strong in all these things. Most of all, we can be vigilant, we can be informed, we can support great forces like this. And this week of Passover and Easter, I know we can also pray for strength for our leadership, for miraculous things that have happened over and over and over again in the history of Israel, and for courage for each one of us to take a stand. So let's thank our two panelists. Thank you so much. So remember, buy a book, shake Richard's hand. He also is very much here to talk with folks. And remember, April 29th is our Home Rule Town Hall. Share with everybody. We'll be announcing some of the people that are on it shortly. And most of all, have a wonderful Passover and Easter. God bless you all. Thank you.